Dear listeners, please bear in mind that the following story of Bilal, like all the other stories in the so-called traditions of Mohammedan Islam, is the usual one-sided, unsubstantiated, unauthenticated, and hence as unreliable as all of the others handed down to us by the followers of Muhammad. We shall, of course, and as usual, be accused of deceit and anti-Islamic rhetoric by the same followers of Muhammad who cannot ever prove us wrong on anything. We have searched the hadiths, and to our shock and disgust, we found only 5 hadiths of no importance from among the thousands of others that are attributed to Bilal, although he was one of the closest and most trusted companions of Muhammad. How could this be? The answer is actually very simple. As a black African, the Arabs and later the followers of Muhammad had very little regard for the people of this continent. The racism of the Arabs propagated itself with Muhammadan Islam. Please remember that in the Arabic language, the black people are called Abid, meaning slaves. This expression has not had its meaning changed in the last 1400 years. Witness our chapter 20, Islam and African Slavery. Also witness what the light-skinned Arabized people of the Sudan have been and are doing to the Christian and animist blacks in the south, or the Muhammadan Muslim blacks in Darfur. These are actually acts of genocidal racial superiority, not religious differences. We shall, of course, get the usual denials from both the followers of Muhammad and their apologists, but the facts and reality are there for all to see. Bilal bin Rabah, born 580, died 642 AD, was an Abyssinian or Ethiopian slave who, in the Muhammadan tradition, is called Bilal al-Habashi, meaning Bilal the Abyssinian. He was born in Mecca, Arabia, from a slave parenthood about 580 AD. His father was an Arab slave named Rabba, and his mother was an Abyssinian slave named Hamama. He was one of the earliest converts to Muhammadan Islam. Traditionally, black Africans were considered by the Arabs as lowly human beings who thought them to be of little use beyond entertainment and slavery. Read what Abu al-Hasan ibn Ali al-Mas'udi, an Arab historian and geographer circa 896 to 956, known as the Herodotus of the Arabs, thought of the black Africans. Sir William Muir, in his The Life of Muhammad, page 59, says, "He was tall, dark, and gaunt, with African features and bushy hair. Some proud and haughty members of the noble Quraysh tribe who despised him called him Ibn Sauda, son of the black woman." Dr. Muhammad Abdul Rauf, in his Bilal ibn Rabah, page 5, says, "He was of a handsome and impressive stature, dark brown complexion with sparkling eyes, a fine nose and bright skin. He was also gifted with a deep, melodious, resonant voice. He wore a beard which was thin on both cheeks. He was endowed with great wisdom and a sense of dignity and self-esteem." The traditions tell us that when Bilal converted to Islam, he was put under severe punishment by his pagan Arab slave master, Umayyah ibn Khalaf. Umayyah had him stretched out on his back and tied to stakes beneath the scorching sun of the Arabian desert, and placed a huge stone upon his chest, demanding that he recant his belief in Islam. Bilal, who had no way to fight back but with his heart, nearly at the point of death from thirst and the crushing weight of the huge stone, only would say, "Ahad, Ahad," meaning one, that is, one God. He refused to recant his belief in Islam, even if it meant that he would be killed for not doing so. In frustration, Umayyah gave up his effort to make him do so and allowed Abu Bakr, a wealthy merchant who was Bilal's close friend, to purchase his freedom. After Bilal had been ransomed by Abu Bakr, he was later appointed by Rasulullah Muhammad to be the first muezzin, or caller to prayer, of the new Muslim community. As Edward W. Blyden, in his Christianity, Islam, and the Negro Race, page 327, says, "And from those African lips the beautiful sentiment found utterance, 'Prayer is better than sleep,' which is repeated every day throughout the Muhammadan world. Bilal was honored and distinguished by Muhammad as the first fruits of Abyssinia. Because of his honesty, Muhammad also made him his personal treasurer and secretary. He participated in every single battle and was an effective and eager warrior. When Abu Bakr was installed as the first Khalifa after Muhammad's death, and the army, organized under the leadership of the Arab general Osama, was marching towards Syria, Bilal came to his friend Abu Bakr and said, "O Khalifa of Rasulullah, I heard Rasulullah say that the most meritorious act of a believer is to struggle in the way of Allah, and I wish to join the army and struggle unto my death." Abu Bakr appealed to Bilal to spare his life for his own sake and to remain beside him in Medina. On account of what Abu Bakr had done for Bilal, and of their mutual love and respect, Bilal yielded to Abu Bakr's appeal, though it was difficult to remain in Medina after the physical presence of Rasulullah had gone. The reign of Abu Bakr was only 2 years. His death in 634 AD was a grievous blow to Bilal, although he was still under the strain of the greater loss suffered from the death of Rasulullah. However, without Rasulullah and Abu Bakr, life in Medina became colorless and dull for Bilal. He was eager to obtain the pleasure of Allah by giving his life in the defense of Islam, as if what he had already done was not enough. He therefore went to Umar, the second Khalifa, and requested permission to join the combatants in Syria. Umar, who also had great regard for Bilal, sought to dissuade him, but Bilal insisted on going. Umar had no choice but to agree. Bilal went and did his share. He remained in Syria until he died in 642 of plague at Amwas, 10 years after the death of Rasulullah and 8 years after that of Abu Bakr. It is said that he was 63 years old when he died. In spite of his glorious achievements, Bilal remained a very humble person. He never sought a high office or a leading position. He just wanted to remain a modest soldier of Allah. Whenever he heard a word in his praise, he was embarrassed and insisted that he was but a former slave, and acknowledged Allah's favor in guiding him aright and giving him freedom. Yet he acquired such eminence that even the Khalifa Umar addressed him as his master. Bilal has been used by Mohammedans as an exemplar to convert black people all over the world, and in modern times especially in the United States among the prison populations. They pick on the criminal elements because they are incarcerated and very vulnerable to suggestions. Moreover, since the Quran has a text as hardened as the criminals in the prison system, then it is not at all difficult for them to tune in with its contents of violence, racism, tribalism, elitism, hate-mongering, and male chauvinism. The text of the Quran is like music to their ears. Farah Khan's Nation of Islam in the United States is a black group who claim they are Muslims. They espouse hatred of the white people, of Christians, of Jews, and of the American system, while they are protected by the same system. Their behavior in betraying and reviling our way of life is no different from that of the followers of Muhammad in all the European democracies as we see them on television and read their literature. As far as the Arabs are concerned, the Nation of Islam is nothing more than the butt of jokes, since they are considered as kuffar, because they do not only not understand Arabic, but follow the dictates of their mentor, a convert to Islam called Elijah Muhammad. Malcolm X, who belonged to the original founding fathers, found out that Elijah Muhammad was abusing his position by having sex with the females of the group. To keep his mouth shut, they had him slaughtered just like Muhammad used to do in Arabia 1400 years earlier. Nothing ever changes in the cult of Muhammadan Islam. Those who do their utmost to convert people to Muhammadan Islam never point out to their intended victims that they, the black people, are in the United States because of the Arab and Muhammadan slave trade, that it was the Arabs and Muhammadan blacks who attacked their villages, slaughtered, raped, and enslaved their ancestors, that it was they who had them shackled and chained as if they were wild animals and trekked them out of Africa to its shores to be sold to others in the first place. Based upon Bilal's character and association with Muhammad and his most important companions, the hadiths should have handed down a great number of extremely important and informative stories about Muhammad, his thoughts and deeds emanating directly from Bilal, but this, unfortunately, is not the case. Maybe you, our listeners, can provide a better conclusion than ours.